Good morning, America. On the 23rd of May, 2026, while Iran publicly pushed for ceasefire talks in the Gulf, its forces continued aggressive operations in the Strait of Hormuz. In response, the United States has launched one of the largest naval operations in recent history. Admiral Brad Cooper, commander of CENTCOM, confirmed today that U.S. and coalition forces have already destroyed 90% of Iran's estimated 8,000 sea mines and sunk or disabled 161 IRGC and Iranian Navy vessels since the operation began. This is not just a military response. It is a direct challenge to Iran's long-standing strategy of holding the global economy hostage through one narrow waterway. Tell me in the comments, do you think this U.S.-led operation will finally neutralize Iran's blackmail in the Strait of Hormuz? To understand why the U.S. operation has been so aggressive, we must first look at the dangerous strategy Iran had been executing for months. The IRGC turned the Strait of Hormuz into a floating minefield. Using their stealthy Ghadar-class mini-submarines and Ghashi-class fast-attack craft, Iranian forces deployed thousands of advanced Maham-3 and Maham-7 naval mines at key choke points, particularly in the narrow 2-1 nautical mile wide passage between Oman and Iran. These smart mines were designed to activate on acoustic signatures of large tankers and warships. By mid-May 2026, Iran had planted an estimated 8,000 sea mines across critical shipping lanes. Their goal was clear and ruthless: paralyze the daily flow of 21 million barrels of oil, roughly 21% of global oil supply, and trigger a massive spike in world energy prices. Tehran believed this economic blackmail would force the international community to accept its terms in any ceasefire negotiations. Many of these mines were smart versions equipped with sensors, but poor maintenance and rushed deployment caused a serious problem. Iran quickly lost track of their exact locations. Hundreds of mines are now drifting uncontrollably with ocean currents, turning the strait into an even more unpredictable danger zone for commercial shipping. This was classic Iranian asymmetric warfare, using relatively cheap weapons to threaten one of the world's most vital energy arteries. The IRGC openly bragged that they could close the strait within hours if provoked. Their strategy relied on fear. The mere threat of mines and swarm attacks was supposed to make the world hesitate. But on May 20th, that strategy began to unravel. The United States, together with coalition partners, launched a systematic clearing operation. In just days, they destroyed the vast majority of these hidden threats. What Iran saw as its ultimate trump card has become a strategic liability. By turning a critical global waterway into a minefield, Tehran didn't just threaten tankers, it invited the kind of overwhelming international response it is now desperately trying to survive. In direct response to Iran's aggressive mining campaign, the United States has launched one of the largest and most sophisticated naval operations in the Persian Gulf in recent decades. As of the 20th of May, 2026, U.S.-led coalition forces have destroyed approximately 7,200 sea mines. That's 90% of Iran's estimated total stockpile of 8,000 mines. At the same time, American and partner forces have sunk or disabled 161 IRGC and Iranian Navy vessels, including key mine-laying platforms and fast-attack craft that were responsible for deploying the minefields. The operation is centered around the USS George H.W. Bush Carrier Strike Group, supported by Arleigh Burke-class destroyers such as the USS John Finn and USS Milius, littoral combat ships, and a large fleet of underwater drones and autonomous mine-hunting systems. These forces are systematically clearing safe corridors through the most dangerous sections of the strait, particularly the narrow 2-1 nautical mile passage between Iran and Oman. The scale of this effort is unprecedented in modern naval history. Over 40 naval vessels, more than 100 aircraft, and dozens of specialized underwater drones are working around the clock. Advanced sonar systems and autonomous underwater vehicles, UUVs, are mapping and neutralizing drifting mines in real time. In the last 72 hours alone, the coalition has cleared over 180 square nautical miles of previously mined waters, allowing commercial shipping to resume in carefully protected lanes. This is not a simple escort mission. Washington has effectively dismantled Iran's most powerful asymmetric weapon in a matter of weeks. The IRGC's Mosquito fleet and mine doctrine, developed over more than 2 decades, has been largely neutralized. What Tehran once believed would be its ultimate trump card is now being systematically removed from the board. The psychological blow to the IRGC is significant. Iranian commanders who boasted they could close the strait within hours are now watching their carefully laid minefields disappear one by one. Many fast attack boat crews have refused orders to return to the most dangerous zones, according to intelligence reports. For global energy markets, this operation is bringing cautious relief. Safe passage for commercial ships is gradually increasing, helping to stabilize oil prices that spiked dramatically after Iran's initial mining campaign. But beyond the strategy and military success, there is a vital humanistic dimension. Every mine destroyed and every neutralized vessel reduces the risk of a catastrophic environmental disaster. A single major incident involving a very large crude carrier could spill millions of barrels of oil into the Gulf, devastating marine ecosystems and coastal communities for generations. By clearing these threats, the U.S. and its partners are not only protecting freedom of navigation, they are protecting the fragile marine environment and the livelihoods of millions who depend on these waters. The United States did not just respond to Iran's aggression, it is dismantling the very tools Iran used to threaten the world's energy security. After losing the vast majority of its sea mines and fast attack boats in the U.S.-led destruction campaign, Iran is now desperately pivoting to new tactics in a clear sign of strategic weakness. Tehran has rapidly shifted toward massive drone swarms and ballistic missiles to replace its neutralized mine threat. In the weeks following May 7th, Iran launched multiple waves of Shahed 136 derivatives and other suicide drones targeting Gulf oil facilities, commercial tankers, and U.S. assets. Between March and April 2026 alone, Iranian forces conducted at least 47 documented drone and missile attacks on shipping and infrastructure in the region. The IRGC is also activating its proxy network to increase pressure. Houthi forces in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden have intensified attacks on merchant vessels, with 19 incidents recorded since early April. This multi-front approach is an attempt to compensate for the collapse of their traditional naval mine strategy by raising costs through attrition and forcing the U.S. and its partners to spread their forces thinner. This is classic desperation. Iran's conventional naval power has been severely degraded, so it is doubling down on cheap, high-volume, asymmetric weapons, the same playbook it has used for years, but now with even greater urgency. By launching swarms of drones and activating proxies, Tehran hopes to create enough chaos to force negotiations on its terms, or at least slow down the U.S.-led clearing operation in the Strait. However, this shift comes with serious limitations. Many of these drones are being intercepted at higher rates than before, and the proxy attacks in the Red Sea have drawn even more international attention and naval presence to the region. Instead of regaining the initiative, Iran is finding itself fighting on multiple fronts with diminishing resources. The human cost of this escalation is heavy and ongoing. Iranian drone and missile attacks continue to terrorize civilian populations and maritime workers in the Gulf. Seafarers from dozens of nations now sail through these waters under constant threat of sudden explosions. Oil workers in coastal facilities live with the daily fear of strikes that could disrupt their livelihoods. Families across the region face rising fuel prices and economic uncertainty caused by this manufactured instability. What Iran once called its invincible, asymmetric doctrine is now looking increasingly fragile. Having lost its mine advantage, Tehran is resorting to tactics that are easier to detect and counter, while further isolating itself internationally. The shift is clear. Iran is no longer dictating the rules in the Strait of Hormuz. It is reacting and struggling to keep up. The financial earthquake that struck Iranian networks in Dubai on May 12th is now sending powerful shockwaves across the entire region and beyond. Iran's Ring of Fire proxy strategy, its primary tool for projecting power without direct confrontation, is facing its most severe financial crisis in years. Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and various Shia militias in Iraq and Syria have all reported sharp funding cuts. Intelligence assessments indicate that monthly financial support to these groups, which previously averaged $180, $220 million, has been reduced by 64% in the past 10 days. Hezbollah commanders have reportedly delayed fighter salaries for the first time since 2019, while Houthi operations in the Red Sea are struggling with fuel and weapons shortages. This financial pressure is part of a broader strategic realignment in the Gulf. The UAE's decisive crackdown is not an isolated regulatory move. It reflects Abu Dhabi's deepening alignment with the Abraham Accords and stronger Western security partnerships. By choosing to dismantle Iranian financial networks, the UAE has signaled it will no longer serve as Tehran's silent economic partner. Saudi Arabia is following a similar path, accelerating its own financial oversight and security cooperation with the West. For Iran, the options are increasingly limited and unattractive. Neither China nor Russia can fully replace Dubai's sophisticated financial infrastructure. While Beijing continues to purchase discounted Iranian oil, it has shown reluctance to help Tehran circumvent Western banking systems on a large scale. Russia, burdened by its own sanctions, lacks both the capacity and willingness to act as a complete substitute. Tehran's once reliable financial pressure valve has been permanently sealed. This new reality carries a dangerous risk of escalation. A financially desperate Iran may attempt to compensate through military provocations in the Strait of Hormuz or by activating proxy groups to create chaos elsewhere. However, such moves now come with much higher costs and lower chances of success, as Gulf states are better prepared and more unified than ever before. The strategic balance in the Middle East is shifting. Iran can no longer treat the Gulf as its safe financial backyard or assume it can use economic leverage through proxies without consequences. The UAE's move has changed the rules of the game from accommodation to active containment. Behind these grand strategic shifts lies a painful human cost. While the Iranian regime continues its aggressive foreign policy, ordinary Iranians are bearing the heaviest burden: skyrocketing prices, mass unemployment, and a collapsing currency. The financial isolation caused by losing Dubai is accelerating domestic hardship and widening the gap between the regime and its people. The quiet financial war in Dubai may ultimately prove more consequential than many kinetic battles. By cutting Iran's financial lifeline, the UAE has struck at the very foundation of Tehran's regional power. The events of the past 2 weeks have fundamentally altered the strategic landscape in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's long-standing sea denial doctrine, built over decades with underground missile cities and massive minefields, has largely failed. What Tehran once considered its ultimate trump card has been exposed and severely degraded. The IRGC's decision on May 7th to launch a full-scale attack handed the United States the precise intelligence map it had sought for years. Iran's most important asymmetric advantage is now a known vulnerability. The regime in Tehran now faces a narrowing and dangerous set of choices. Continued escalation risks devastating new American strikes that could cripple what remains of its military and economic infrastructure. Yet backing down risks severe internal backlash, especially from hardline factions within the IRGC. The financial isolation caused by the loss of Dubai channels has only intensified this pressure. Long-term, a new power balance is emerging in the Gulf. The combination of U.S. naval dominance, accelerated bypass infrastructure by the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and the exposure of Iran's hidden assets has dramatically reduced Tehran's leverage. The era when Iran could hold the global economy hostage through the Strait of Hormuz is rapidly coming to an end. At its core, this crisis is about people. It is about whether one regime can continue threatening the livelihoods of millions through blackmail and hidden weapons. The goal of deterrence has always been to protect ordinary families from American drivers filling up at gas stations to Asian factory workers, and European households from sudden energy shocks and economic chaos. True leadership means choosing de-escalation and stability over reckless confrontation that only brings suffering to civilians on all sides. The coming days will be critical, but one thing is becoming increasingly clear: the balance has shifted, and it has shifted against Iran.